I'll come to your questions immediately, but Mr Farage, I'm going to put a question to you, if I may, from one of the party conferences I've just referenced. Sir Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, saying yesterday, imagine, and I quote, imagine living in the Trump-inspired country Farage wants us to become, where gun laws are rolled back, so schools have to teach our children what to do in cases of mass shootings. Mr Farage.
I know. Honestly, I don't think you should take him too seriously. I mean, I thought the fact that he mentioned me 30 times in his speech suggested a new phenomenon of Farage derangement syndrome. He didn't mention the Prime Minister once. I think Kemi got a look in very briefly. Totally obsessive. He didn't tell the country what he was for in any way at all. Just what he's against, which is me and Trump. And he doesn't want us to live in a Trump-style country, and I understand that. He doesn't want borders. He doesn't want economic growth. He doesn't want men taken out of women's sports. Look, honestly, I really don't think we should take anything he said yesterday seriously. It was a joke.
I want to move to calls, but the Lib Dems are standing by that and saying that Nigel Farage said in 2014 the ban on handguns is ludicrous. They're saying that's something you said in...
Well, I said the Olympic team should not have to go to Calais to practice, is what I said. Yeah, I mean, every other country in the world, you have secure gun clubs where people can shoot.
So it was merely in the sense of
that's exactly what I was shooting. Well, yeah, of course it was.
So
and it's 11 years and 8 months ago. I mean, probably Ed Davey would ban all guns and ban shooting. I don't know.
Well, you wouldn't do that. You'd always...
No, I certainly wouldn't do that. But I suspect he would.
All right. OK, let's go to the calls. Marie is in Westminster, and you're through to Nigel Farage. Marie, good morning.
Good morning. My question is, I'm an American. I've lived in London for nearly 25 years now.
Go ahead.
My 3 children were all born in Paddington. I don't use the state education system, and I'm generally able to access private health care, so I don't take a lot from the state. I've worked in senior finance roles in a FTSE 10 company for over 15 years before stepping away from the office to look after my family. Mm-hmm. I now volunteer as a governor at a local school, and I support GCSE and sixth form students in underprivileged schools with the university application process.
Right.
As such, I don't really have any income to speak of, but I have paid my taxes and I've paid into a pension the whole time I've been in the UK.
I have to move you to your question. You've been here 25 years. You're still an American citizen, just to clarify, right?
Yes.
And you're concerned about your status in the UK?
Because I'm here on indefinite leave to remain.
Okay.
So what happens to me?
Mr Farage, Marie, 25 years, American citizen, very much embedded in the paid a lot of taxes, governor of a local school. Nigel Farage.
We are very worried about the category of indefinite leave to remain. It doesn't work. In your case, fine. But in many, many cases, it becomes a backdoor to a life on benefits, a life bringing the extended family, a massive, I mean, you've paid taxes, a massive, massive cost to the system.
So to clarify, Marie,
and
there's no problem for someone such as Marie.
The whole point of what I talked about on Monday was we have, over the next 3 years, 1.3 million people coming up expecting to be granted indefinite leave to remain. Yep. It's part of the Boris wave that he allowed. And if we do that, some estimates are that will cost the taxpayer over £200 billion
that has been widely
over the years to come.
Now, Mr. Farage,
no, it hasn't been widely discredited at all.
Even the body that produced it says that it's unsubstantiated figures.
Yeah. Do you know what? Whether it's 180 billion or 260 billion, it would represent a massive saving for the country. Now, Marie, the point about those on indefinite leave to remain now is, we want people to have work visas. We want people here who work and pay taxes. And if they do, that's fine. But we do not want people coming in, slipping through this 5-year system and frankly becoming a burden on the country. And if you look at the state of our public finances, you'll understand why we say this.
Let's have a quick response from Marie. Marie, quick response if you would.
You haven't really addressed my question. I don't work outside the home. So my question was, what happens to me? Are my children and husband are asking, is there a chance you could get deported? And I said, no, obviously not. No. So what are the specifics? Let's get to specifics.
If you have lived in the country on ILR and you have not worked and not paid into the system, you're going to be told, look, your benefits are being cut. We're not going to go on paying you benefits forever. It might be better if you return to your home country.
So would that include the Ukrainians and Hong Kongers?
No, because they've come for different reasons.
Right, and people from Afghanistan?
Well, I think that's a slightly different category, but it depends who they are. Nick, here's the point. When it comes to genuine refugees, if you study the record, they do not tend to live off social security. They tend actually to have been some of the hardest working and in many cases most successful people in the country. We have an unsustainable immigration system with the population exploding, an unsustainable welfare bill. Now 1 in 6 people on universal credit is foreign born. Right. This can't go on. And certainly, we mustn't add to it in the next 3 years.
So could families be broken up, as was suggested yesterday?
Well, no, we haven't suggested that or anything like it. Let's get to the key. We must not have 1.3 million more people going onto this category. We then have a massive job in working out who has taken the mickey out of our system.
But if I'm legally settled and my children don't have jobs, could they be deported?
No, they could lose benefits but not be deported.
And there's even a suggestion you would ban dual citizenship.
No. Look, the reason you're going to the reason you're going to get all this, right?
Are you going to ban dual citizenship?
The reason of course not.
Okay,
the reason you're going to get all this, it's very simple. Both the Labour and the Tory parties are terrified of the truth of what indefinite leave to remain and lax borders are costing British taxpayers.
And lastly, before we move on, the employment sector, there are industries saying, such as agriculture, the care sector, that they couldn't cope without these people.
We've heard it for years, and that's why the population's gone up by 10 million, and that's why we're all poorer, and that's why you can't get a GP appointment, you can't drive down the motorway because it's clogged. We've heard these arguments for years. And frankly, if employers need, and we will have special category visas, right?
Such as the care sector, for
But
purpose.
take the care sector.
Yeah.
Should somebody coming to work in the care sector be able to bring dependents with them? We say no.
Right. But
we say no.
What if they're... So they would be deported, someone here currently. If they're working in the care sector now, they'd be all right.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense for somebody to come in on a low income to pay a minimal amount of tax to be able to bring with them a dependent that the state may have to look after for the rest of their lives. Let's get some common sense. Let's get some genuine common sense into this.
Indeed, and so children of those on indefinite leave, they wouldn't have to go.
We're not deporting. We're taking people's benefits away, and therefore they will leave in many, many cases.
So that just their benefits would be switched off.
We're talking about deporting people who are here illegally.
And just lastly, I know you're going to knock back at this, but the 243 billion, it's widely discredited.
It's much bigger than that. If you take in all of it, it's much, much bigger than that.
But the Centre for Policy
the last
Studies...
time I sat here with you, you said you've got massive spending commitments. Now you say I'm cutting too much. Make your mind up.
Well, no, it's not
Make
my
your mind up.
It's
There's
the
no
Centre
figure.
for Policy
There
Studies,
is no
Mr. Farage,
figure.
has said the fiscal data contained within the report was the subject of dispute. All I'm saying is...
Every single figure that you've discussed on this programme for the last 18 years you've been here has been subject to dispute. What is indisputable is the cost saving of not allowing 1.3 million people who, by the way, have come from all over the world, many from very poor countries, many with very poor English, very few with skills. The cost saving would be enormous.
Let's move on. Thank you for your call, Marie. Hira is in Manchester. Hira, you're on the radio. Good morning.
Good morning. My question to Mr. Farage is, as a pharmacist, my biggest concern is public health misinformation. If the UK is seeking closer ties with Trump-led US, would you endorse aligning with their approach to health communication, even if it contradicts scientific consensus, as we've seen with the claims around paracetamol and autism?
No, and I think this is very interesting. I mean, I do think individual countries should have their own debates and make their own health decisions. So I wouldn't follow what Mr. Kennedy's department does. I'd listen to what they have to say, but I wouldn't follow it. And frankly, nor would I follow the World Health Organization, who now seem to want to take some extraordinary powers that will allow them to lock us down in the future. No, having our own independent healthcare policy, making our own decisions, must be the right thing to do.
When Nigel, when Donald Trump talks about links between paracetamol or Tylenol and autism, is he right?
I have no idea.
You think he might be right?
I have no idea. We were told thalidomide was a very safe drug and it wasn't. Who knows? Nick, I don't know. You don't know. He has a particular thing about autism, I think because there's been some in his family, and he feels it very personally. I have no idea.
You wouldn't side with the medical experts who say it's dangerous nonsense?
I wouldn't. When it comes to science, I don't side with anybody.
Right. You don't.
No, I don't side with anybody, because science is never settled, and we should remember that.
But in the light of that research done in Stockholm with 2.4 million children, someone in an influential position like the President of the United States, to say that taking Tylenol or paracetamol can cause autism, that's irresponsible, Nigel Farage.
That's an opinion he's got. It's not one that I necessarily share. But look, I mean, honestly, I've no idea.
OK, Hira, thank you. Chris is in Richmond. Chris, you're through to Nigel Farage. Morning.
Morning, Nigel. Morning, Nick.
Morning.
Nigel, are you prepared to unequivocally condemn Donald Trump's remarks yesterday suggesting that Sadiq Khan wanted to impose Sharia law in London? Yes or no, please?
He didn't say Sadiq Khan wanted to impose Sharia law in London, and he was very, very careful.
Let Mr. Farage, I will come back.
No,
Farage.
I listened to that, and he said it very carefully. But on his... By the way, very important, Chris, with Trump. Never take what he says literally, ever, on anything. But always take everything he says seriously. And these comments on...
Explain the distinction there, then.
So he makes a comment, and you might disagree with the tone, you might disagree with the context, you might disagree with the number that he puts out, but you'll find that what he has to say has a point. My last understanding, Chris, there were 85 Sharia courts operating in this country at some level.
Civil level, by the way.
Yes, that's
Civil,
right.
yeah.
But operating at some level in this country. So is he right to say that Sharia is an issue in London? Yes. Is it an overwhelming issue at this stage? No. Has the Mayor of London directly linked himself to it? No.
Is the Mayor of London doing as bad a job as President Trump asserts?
Oh, shocking.
The Sharia law is only in civil cases, you know that.
I know it is. And
do you have concerns, then, that it would expand in some fashion?
I have concerns there are people living in Britain who would like for their culture to become our culture as opposed to the other way around, Nick. Yes, of course.
But Jewish people have their own civil
Yes, they do,
as well.
and that's worked beautifully. And when have you ever seen the Jewish community trying to impose their will on us? They've had their own private observance, their own private way of doing things, but never any attempt to impose it upon everybody else. And the difference at the extreme ends of this, and you know this very, very well, is there are extreme ends of this that want us to become a country that follows their customs.
And where do you see that? Give me an example where that's been demonstrated recently. I assume you're talking about...
I've met taxi drivers that have told me that. I've met taxi drivers that have told me, we will have Sharia law in Britain, you will live by our rules.
How do you respond when a taxi driver tells you that?
With shock.
And is that in London?
Horror.
Is that in London?
No, I actually first met that up in Buckinghamshire somewhere.
Right, because I know you visited northern cities as well, such
as
Clacton,
I have.
Bradford, you have concerns there.
I have deep concerns.
So is this something you hear regularly? Because obviously the position you're in, you're an extremely recognisable politician.
Yeah.
People are going to give you the benefit of their views, some positive, some negative.
Well, they do.
Some positive, some negative. So people regularly say to you, we will have Sharia law whether you like it.
Not regularly, but it has happened over the years, and there are people who think their way of life is better than our way of life and that we should adjust to them.
And how much does that drive your own political positioning?
I think it's very frightening. And I think what Trump was aiming at with his big pitch, that the West's going to hell, is it's in danger of losing its culture, its heritage, its identity. It's in danger of losing everything that it ever stood for.
Is Europe going to hell?
I think you can see it everywhere. Look at Stockholm. Look at parts of Germany. Look at what the mass importation of people who come from very different cultures has done to those cities.
Now, you said there's normally a kernel of truth to what the President says. I challenged you exactly a year ago about these comments. Is he onto something?
Whenever he says something like this that sounds absolutely crackers, in the end, there always proves to be some truth in it.
You think Haitian immigrants are eating cats and dogs?
I'll have a tenner with you. That within the next month or so, we find some evidence of it. What the scale of it is, I've no idea.
But you do think some cats and dogs are being eaten in Springfield, Ohio?
I think Trump generally, when he says these things, is proved to be right.
So I said I'd give you a month. It's 12 months. The idea that Haitians are eating cats and dogs in Springfield. If you can prove it, I've got my £10 ready.
Well, if you can prove it hasn't happened, the other way around.
Are you prepared now to say that one was utterly nonsensical?
If I said to you that swans were being eaten in royal parks in this country, that carp were being taken out of ponds and eaten in this country by people who come from cultures that have a different... Would you agree it's happening here?
I've certainly read... I didn't know about swans. I've read about carp being fished,
well, there you go. So, look... neither of us can prove or disprove.
Who are taking the carp and the swans?
People who come from countries where that's quite acceptable
Well,
to
I've
do
read
so.
headlines that it's Eastern Europeans, Romanians and people like that.
So I believe.
Is that what you've heard?
So I believe.
So it's a similar sort of story. They're eating
Similar story.
They're eating our carp, they're eating our swans.
But, I'm not saying that. I'm just putting it back as an argument.
All right, I don't get my £10?
Well, I should get my £10 because you can't prove the other way either.
Chris, thank you for your call. Sarah in Birmingham, you're through to Nigel Farage. Go ahead.
Hi, Nigel.
Hi.
The UK support a two-state solution. However, the Israeli government, as well as Hamas, do not. Therefore, if your dream came true of becoming the next Prime Minister, what would your solution be for achieving peace between Palestine and the Middle East and Israel?
I'm pleased you've asked that. You can't recognise a Palestinian state until you recognise some boundaries that it would have. And Gaza, that clearly isn't.
The Montevideo Convention, by the way, of 1933.
And actually, Sarah, there's a very interesting idea. There is a piece of land between the Red Sea and the Dead Sea. It is totally unoccupied desert. It's partly part of Jordan, but Jordan derives no benefit from it whatsoever. If you could designate that as a piece of land that could be turned into a homeland, a country with major canals and irrigation linking to the sea, and if you had a group of Palestinian people who were not led by terrorists, who were not intent on the destruction of Israel and its people, then I think you could start to have a sensible debate about creating a Palestinian homeland. Right at the moment, and by the way, you can criticise Netanyahu, you can criticise Israel as much as you like, but you cannot recognise something that doesn't have a geography and is led by terrorists.
How would that barren land be generated? The cost of that would be phenomenal.
Listen, you could argue the cost would be phenomenal, but equally you could argue the longer-term economic benefits that came from it would be phenomenal too. Think of places out of a desert like Palm Springs in America. You can do these things. But so geography is important, but equally you can't recognise a state, a group of people who are currently being led by Hamas, a terrorist organisation intent on the destruction of Israel.
Why did Sakir do what he did as regards Palestine earlier this
year? I think it was a ridiculous thing to do, but of course he's playing to the left of British politics.
So it was a fight in his own party rather than the Middle East.
Yeah, and the growing vote. There is a growing Muslim vote in Britain that puts Palestine at the top of their political agenda. It's part of the changes that we're seeing that immigration has led to in our country, and it is shifting the political agenda.
Sarah, thank you. One question I'll put to you that we were discussing in the hour before you arrived, Mr. Farage, concerns the case of the Ethiopian Hadesh Kabatu, who's now been convicted of sex crimes. There's a choice here. The new legislation that Shabana Mahmoud has brought in means that we could actually go for early deportation. That would mean this man served something in the region of 77 days instead of the 12-month stretch he was given at Chelmsford.
It's just unbelievable.
It is indicated if he goes home, he will be...
It's just unbelievable. I mean, what this case shows is the mothers who started protesting outside the Bell Hotel were right. They were absolutely right to protest outside that hotel for safety on the streets for their daughters and for other women. Secondly, the sentence. What on earth is going on? Those crimes of which he was convicted carry up to 14 years in prison. Up to 14 years. He gets 12 months. Imagine if he'd said something nasty on Twitter. I'm being serious. I mean, this lays bare, this sentence lays bare the two-tier policing and justice that we are living in our country. This is one of the best examples yet. This sentence is an absolute disgrace. So before we discuss whether he should be deported or not, ask ourselves, how does Lucy Connolly get 31 months for a tweet that was wrong but deleted very quickly? And this guy, 4 separate charges on which he was convicted, just gets 12 months. Something is very, very wrong here. It feels like the bad guys are getting protection.
I hear the power in your argument, but just last year, we'll come back. Should he now be deported?
Yes.
So he walks free in Ethiopia?
Do you know what? If he doesn't walk free in Ethiopia, he walks free here in a couple of months' time.
In a related story, the BBC, which is not necessarily on the right side, right wing of journalism, has done an investigation which finds that migrants housed in asylum hotels are sent on £600 taxi rides for NHS treatment because they have to go back to their original point of entry, which even they say in this BBC documentary, quotes, it's crazy. Nigel Farage?
Yes, the BBC did a very good job yesterday. Today programme did a very good job yesterday. I mean, not often I've said that before, but they did, and they actually did a very fair report, just pointing out the sheer massive cost.
But this, I fear, is the tip of an iceberg.
Oh, yeah, you know, and this is fair. But of course, don't forget, if you're an illegal immigrant, you get all the health care you want. You get dental care. They even showed a case yesterday, and this will get people thinking, of a woman who come by dinghy from Iraq because she had bad cancer. So she said, well, get to Britain and they'll treat me for free. Now, you know, it's worth debating because obviously we feel sorry for the woman.
Of course. But we have our own people. And you can argue this with AIDS cases and all sorts of different areas. And I think, frankly, we've just got to a point. This is the cost of illegal immigration. What I was discussing with indefinite leave to remain was the massive cost of legal immigration. And when you start to add it up together, you realise that because of the Labour and Conservative parties being in power and all of this happening under their watch, we've not been having a proper debate. Let's go to other calls. Imi in Bicester. Imi, you're on the radio. Good morning, Imi.
Good morning, Mr. Farage. Hope you're doing well. My question pertains to free speech. So, look, you frame yourself as an ally of President Trump, and recently in the US Congress you compared the Starmer government to, you know, being adjacent to North Korea. But considering recent events in the US, let's say Jimmy Kimmel, people being deported if they're critical of US foreign policy, and even me, I was interviewed at the border when I landed in Chicago on my feelings on the Trump administration. Would you still claim that this is a fair comparison to make when you compare the two countries, rather?
Do you know, I went, as you know, I went to the House Judicial Committee a few weeks ago, and I was being grilled for 3 hours on free speech and what was happening. I'll give you my position, Emmy, very, very clearly. I thought what Bob Villan said about the death of my friend Charlie Kirk was absolutely vile. But I wouldn't ban it. I wouldn't have him arrested. I wouldn't have him deported because he wasn't inciting violence. He was just giving...
I think he's British-born as well, isn't he?
No, but he was giving a view. He was giving a view that I thought was pretty repulsive, but I think he should be allowed to do it. And I think there is a danger, Emmy, there is a danger. I mean, obviously people are mortified about what happened to Charlie, but there is a danger that the Republicans go over the top in pushing back against this. So we need to remember there are limits to free speech. We know what they are. Shouting fire in a crowded theatre, the classic one back from the 19th century, inciting violence. Outside of that, they're going to have to get used to things being said that they don't like.
Well, can I put to you then, you are a supporter, and I hear that you say you shouldn't always take what Trump says literally, but you should just... But was he right to effectively try and force a broadcaster off air in the case of Jimmy Kimmel?
Whether he had any influence on that, I don't know. But look, I just would say... No. I am saying the Republicans need to be careful.
Well, do you not think Donald Trump needs to be
otherwise, they're going to be guilty of the very thing they accuse the other side of. So, I mean, and I get the emotions.
Yes, of course.
Immediately after Charlie Kirk.
Of course.
But cool reflection is needed on this.
But lastly, the President of the United States engaging in a war of words over a TV presenter.
Oh, that's him.
Is it not demeaning?
That's him. That's him. That's
why? Why does he...
He's a TV presenter himself.
That's not a bad answer. Let's move on. Imi, thank you for your question. I'm so sorry. Jamie's in Clacton. Jamie, good morning.
Morning. How are you, Nick? All right?
I'm all right. So your question to Nigel Farage, if you would.
Hi, Nigel. Right. So I just wanted to ask a little bit more, touch on your house in Clacton, in our constituency here. I just wanted to know, I know that you said that your partner had bought the house. Is it your partner's house, and who paid for the house?
Yes.
She paid for it as well?
Yes.
Well, her money, not yours?
Yes.
Well, fair enough then. if that's the case.
Why has there been... Jamie, there does seem to have been some confusion here, because initially you said you had bought the house. In fact, you told me that. You also told Sky News that. But now it's
I know. Well, I could have said to you, I've got 2 Labradors. That wouldn't have been true either. We've got 2 Labradors, but they're actually in her name. You know, when you're
the Labradors are in her name.
When you're a couple, you talk about things I, we, and they're interchangeable. All right, simple as that.
Yeah.
She bought the house, and I was very happy for that. You know why? I didn't really want my name to appear on a register in the constituency for simple security reasons.
Right.
So it made much more sense for her to buy the house. Everything's been done correctly, Jamie. Everything's been done legally. And, you know, this was all a desperate attempt to compare us to Angela Rayner.
Well, I was going to say, is there a touch of the Rayners about
No,
this?
zero.
There's no stamp duty,
No, I promise you, I've even paid for a King's Council tax expert.
Have you?
I've done it. I've got it there. I've got the documentation to say everything that's been done is absolutely legal.
All right, Jamie, thank you for your question. As we're talking funds, I understand there's a fairly significant moment in the movement of Reform UK, a meeting you're having later this week.
We're off to see the Governor of the Bank of England tomorrow, and won't this be exciting? Richard Tice and I, we have been fiercely critical of the bank's programme, the way that it's run, the quantitative easing, as it's called, programme, the tens of billions of taxpayers' money that it's paid out to banks on interest. And now what they're doing is they're selling all the bonds they bought at massive losses, locking in massive losses for the taxpayer. And we're saying that's crazy. We should hang on to this and wait till they mature. And secondly, Nick, I'm going to go tomorrow to say this. You know, Tether is a stable coin. Stable coins are the way which money goes from conventional currencies through into cryptocurrencies and back again. Tether is about to be valued as a $500 billion company. You know, stable coins, crypto, this world is enormous. And I've been urging for years that London should embrace it. We should become a global trading centre for this stuff under proper regulation. And the Governor of the Bank of England earlier this week indicated that no individual should be allowed to have more than £10,000 worth of stable coins, to which some of my friends have said, should we just emigrate? Why is the bank so out of touch? Why is it behaving like a dinosaur? Why not get with the 21st century? These new technologies aren't going away. They're here. So
Have we missed the boat? Or is there still time to get on board?
America is so far ahead of us, it's almost unbelievable. I mean, Miami, you could now go to an ATM, get some Bitcoin on your ATM, buy a coffee, you know, buy a book, buy a Ferrari, whatever you might want to do. So we are behind, but we're not too late.
OK, do you rate Andrew Bailey? I mean, reminding listeners, of course, you grew up, you cut your teeth in the city, you were a trader, I don't think you went to university, you went straight to work, you cut your teeth in the city. This is an industry you know well.
Yeah.
What's your rating of Andrew Bailey to date?
It was extraordinary that Boris Johnson appointed Andrew Bailey as the Governor of the Bank of England. Andrew Bailey was an establishment Remainer. Brexit was the very moment to have someone that believed in Brexit, that wanted to deregulate, and none of those things have happened. So I'm sure there's no personal animus between Mr. Bailey and myself, but there might be 1 or 2 sharp discussions tomorrow.
A couple that we'll take from the email. Rachel in Bexley, should Shamima Begum be let back into the United Kingdom?
I don't want her back.
She stays out?
I don't want her back, no.
There's been some reporting that you can see an argument to have her back in, but that's not
Well, there is an argument that says she was a British citizen, and they're sure, but my argument is that she really gave that citizenship up when she went over and joined ISIS.
Pam in Worcester Park, should Sarah Ferguson lose her title as the Duchess of York? Should the family be moved out of the Royal Lodge in Windsor?
Well, they might actually have to be moved out of the Royal Lodge in Windsor because they might have run out of any money to pay the upkeep of it. I don't know what it was about this Epstein guy. I just don't know.
You never met him?
I never did, no. I mean, had I been a few years older, being in New York, I might have done, but I never did. He clearly was part of a big social whirl, and people clearly enjoyed his company.
Did Trump ever speak to you about him, Epstein?
Never. I think Epstein was a pretty small part of... Knowing Epstein was a pretty small part of Trump's life. But, look, we never quite know each other, do we?
No.
But if somebody who's a friend is proved to have done something pretty awful, it's unlikely that you will maintain a strong friendship with that person. And yet, somehow, even after Epstein was convicted of these things, very senior people, members of the royal family, British ambassadors, maintained very friendly relationships with him. And that's, of course, been fatal to their careers. She's lost, I think, is it half a dozen charities?
7.
That she was that she was a patron of.
But does she lose the title, Mr. Farage?
Well, you can't take the title away from her without taking it away from Prince Andrew. I doubt that will happen.
And finally, I mentioned that we're in party conference season. The two currently big parties have their conference.
They're not big, they're tiny.
The Labour followed by the Conservative. Are we likely to see Are we likely to see any defections? Have you got something planned for each of the respective Mondays coming up?
We're about to go through 250,000 members today. I mean, they're not big parties.
Traditional. Let me say traditional big parties.
Yeah, legacy.
All right, legacy parties. I'll give it whatever you like. But are we going to see? You're fairly canny in the news media game. Are we going to see some defections next couple of Mondays or Sunday nights?
No idea, Nick. I wouldn't know about things like that.
They're more online.
There might be.